You're scrolling through the news again. One tab is your banking app, one tab is your 401k, and the other five are headlines like, "Economists predict recession in 6 months," "Soft landing is here," "Hard landing is coming," "No landing scenario explained." And you're sitting there like, cool, do I cancel Netflix, sell everything, or just pretend none of this is happening and hope it's fine? You check your accounts. Not zero, but not where you wanted to be. You think about your job, your rent, your debt, and this low background hum of, something feels off, and I can't tell if I'm overreacting or not reacting enough. My name's Mark, and I spend way too much time thinking about that feeling. Not just the word recession, but what actually happens to regular people's lives when the economy wobbles, and why the thing that's coming next is honestly worse than a simple textbook recession for a lot of households. Not because the world is ending, or because I want you doom scrolling all night, but because if you understand what's really changing, what's actually coming for your wallet, your job, and your stress level, you can stop playing defense against the wrong threat and start quietly building a life that holds up even when everything around you is wobbly. By the end of this, I want you to see that is a recession coming is the wrong question. What's worse than a recession is being fragile in a world that's unstable by default. And there are specific things you can do now, boring, practical, unsexy things that make you way less scared of whatever headline shows up next. So, let's talk about it. It's not just a recession, it's a permanent squeeze. When most people hear recession, they picture a dip, a few bad years, then back to normal. But look around, what does normal even mean anymore? Rent and home prices shot up and didn't really come back down. Groceries spiked and then just kind of stayed there. Interest rates are higher than what a whole generation got used to. Jobs feel less stable, more giggish, more we're restructuring. The scarier thing isn't one big downturn. It's this slow, grinding squeeze where your income sort of creeps, your costs jump in chunks, and the margin between them stays razor thin. Why this matters to you? If you're structuring your whole life around survive the next recession, you're not preparing for what's actually happening. Constant mini shocks and a cost of living that doesn't automatically fix itself when GDP goes up again. Actionable takeaway? Stop asking, will there be a recession in 2024? Start asking, if prices stay kind of ridiculous and my income is choppy for the next 10 years, can I survive that? Different question, different strategy. What's worse than a recession? A personal recession. A macro recession is when the economy shrinks. A personal recession is when your life shrinks, even if the news says everything's fine. That's you getting laid off while the unemployment rate is low. Your rent jumping 20% while inflation is only 3%. Your industry getting eaten by software while the stock market hits new highs. I've talked to people who went through 2020 to 2023 and said, everyone keeps talking about recovery. My finances never recovered. That's a personal recession, and it's brutal because there's less empathy. Economy's doing great, what's your problem? There's less help, fewer stimulus checks, fewer programs, and there's more shame. I must just be bad with money. Why this matters? What's coming next, and honestly is already here for a lot of people, is asymmetric pain. Some people will be totally fine, others will be wrecked quietly in an economy that looks okay on average. Your job is to not be average. Takeaway? Instead of only tracking the S&P 500 or Fed announcements, track your own debt-to-income ratio, savings rate, emergency fund, job stability. The recession that matters most is the one happening in your house. The new fragility. No margin, all fixed costs. Let's talk about the real monster under the bed, fragility. Fragility is when you're one paycheck away from panic.
Your fixed bills, rent or mortgage, car payments, subscriptions, debt payments, eat 70 to 80% of your income. A 10 to 20% drop in income or a 10 to 20% increase in costs snaps everything. Picture two people. Person A makes $7,000 per month take-home. Spends $6,800 per month, mostly on locked-in stuff. Big house, 2-car payments, student loans, lifestyle. Has $2,000 in savings. Person B makes $5,000 per month take-home. Spends $3,500 per month and has $20,000 in savings and no high-interest debt. If the economy recessions, who's in more trouble? It's not always the one with the higher income. It's the one with less margin. What's coming, higher volatility, weird job markets, sticky inflation, is worse than a clean, short recession if you walk into it brittle.
Small changes help a ton. Aim to get your fixed costs, housing plus transportation plus minimum payments, under 50% of your take-home. Build even a 1-month buffer if you're starting from zero. Cancel stuff that doesn't really matter, not because $10 matters, but because the habit of buying back margin does. You don't need to be invincible, just less breakable. Your job isn't as safe as you think, but that's not all bad. Another thing that's coming, honestly already arrived, is job instability in slow motion. AI and automation nibbling at white-collar work, remote work making you compete with people in cheaper markets, companies more willing to reorg every 18 months. That sounds terrifying, but there's another side. The people who do well in this environment are the ones who stop thinking, I have a job, and start thinking, I have a skill set and multiple ways to make money with it. Story time. I know a guy who was a mid-level marketing employee at a big company. Layoff came, he was out. That could have been a disaster, but he'd spent the last few years freelancing a little on the side, learning actual sales skills, and building a small network on LinkedIn. Nothing crazy, just being a real person there. He was employed again in weeks. Same economy, different level of fragility. What to do with this? Take inventory of your skills. Which are in demand? Which are soft or generic? Spend an hour a week improving one valuable skill. Data, writing, coding, sales, design, trades, whatever fits you. If your employer owns 100% of your income stream, consider a small side income, not hustle culture, just options. Worse than a recession is waking up to find your job obsolete and realizing you haven't updated yourself in a decade. The debt plus lifestyle trap in a volatile world. Recessions used to hit a world where people had pensions, houses cost less relative to income, debt existed, but it wasn't baked into every part of life. Now, student loans, car payments, credit card balances, buy now, pay later for sneakers and furniture, subscriptions for everything. It's like everyone's walking into a storm wearing a jacket of credit cards. If you're carrying high-interest debt, big car notes, and you're maxed on lifestyle, then any shock, job loss, medical bill, rent hike, hits way harder. I'm not saying debt makes you a bad person. I am saying in the world we're heading into, being debt-heavy is like trying to swim with ankle weights. Practical moves. List your debts by interest rate. Pick the highest one and make it your enemy. Attack that first while paying minimums on the rest. Avoid adding new fixed payments unless they're truly necessary. You don't have to get to zero debt overnight, but even moving from maxed out to a little less leveraged changes how dangerous the next few years are for you. So, how do you prepare for something worse than a recession? Let's tie this together without turning it into panic. What's coming isn't guaranteed doom. It's a more chaotic baseline. Higher cost of living than your parents had, more frequent shocks, pandemics, supply chain messes, energy spikes, whatever's next, less guaranteed job security. Worse than a recession is walking into that reality with no buffer, no flexibility, and no plan except hope. Here's what actual preparation looks like in real life. 1. Build resilience, not predictions. Stop guessing dates. Start building defenses that help no matter what. Savings, lower fixed costs, good skills. 2. Increase your savings rate by a tiny bit. If you're saving 0%, try 5%. If you're at 10%, see if you can reach 12 to 15%. It's less about the exact number and more about the direction. 3. Shrink one big fixed cost if you can. That might mean a slightly cheaper car when this one is up, a roommate for a season, or not letting rent creep up with every upgrade. 4. Keep honest score. Track your net worth, even if it's negative. Track your monthly spending, even if it's messy. Knowing is always step 1. Wrapping it up. Worse than a recession sounds dramatic, and yeah, it's a little bit of a hook. But the core idea is simple. A short, clean recession isn't the real threat. A long era of expensive, unstable, and unequal is. You can't control interest rates. You can't control inflation. You can't control what the Fed does on Wednesday. You can control how fragile or flexible your own life is, whether you have even a tiny buffer, whether your identity is "I'm good at surviving chaos" or "I hope nothing bad happens." So maybe after this, instead of another headline, open your Notes app and write "my current take-home pay, my fixed bills total, my savings rate, and one small thing I can change this month to create a bit more margin." You don't need to build a bunker. You just need to be a little less breakable in a world that's a little more breaky than it used to be. And if you keep doing that, a bit more margin, a bit less debt, a bit more skill month after month, whatever's coming next, it's still going to be bumpy, but it's going to be a lot less scary for you.